Hello listeners everywhere. Welcome to the Archive of Audio Antiquities, a voyage into the vaults of wonders on the wireless. In a moment, Simon Exton and Ken Moss will be here to speak to you.
Hello and welcome back to the Archive of Audio Antiquities. I'm Ken Moss.
I'm Simon Exton.
Dr. Exton, what are we listening to this time?
Well, this time around we are listening to Cabin Pressure.
Welcome home, Golf Tango India. Vacate runway to your right and taxi to your stand.
Thank you, Carl. Oh, incidentally, be advised, as we landed, we saw a large hawk or kestrel about 50 feet from the runway.
Noted, Golf Tango India. What was it doing?
Watching how it's supposed to be done.
Cabin Pressure by John Finnemore, starring Stephanie Cole as Carolyn, Roger Allam as Douglas, Benedict Cumberbatch as Martin, and John Finnemore as Arthur.
Because I know how much of a favourite this is of yours, would you like to gush about it?
I would.
I thought you might.
I'm going to read off the back of the splendid BBC Complete Series box set. Cabin Pressure is set in the wing and a prayer world of a tiny one-plane charter airline, staffed by two pilots, one on his way down and one who was never up to start with. Whether it's dealing with a stuffed sheep, calming a nervous bassoonist, hunting for a cleverly hidden lemon, or attempting to celebrate Christmas in 7 minutes, no job is too small, but many, many jobs are difficult. Carolyn Knapp-Shappy, MJNR's formidable boss, has employed two of the very cheapest pilots money can buy. Captain Martin Creef, who's always wanted to fly and won't let a little thing like lack of ability stop him, and First Officer Douglas Richardson, smooth-voiced old sky god and eternal schemer. Passenger service is provided by the relentlessly cheery Arthur, proud inventor of both surprising rice and his own hat. This is a series written by John Finnemore, starring Stephanie Cole as Carolyn, Benedict Cumberbatch as Martin, Roger Allam as Douglas, and John Finnemore as Arthur. This is 14 hours of absolute fucking joy. It's the very, very best thing I've ever heard on Radio 4. I love it. Is that gushy enough for you?
Well, aren't you a happy little bunny?
I absolutely am. I treated myself to the box because you gave me years, and I mean, this is ages ago. You gave me a complete set of MP3s of the first and second series on a hard drive years ago, which I never listened to. And I can't remember how it came about, but I ended up listening to series 1 to 3, which you might have left at my house on CD. By that point, there was a fourth series and a couple of specials to finish off the series, because the series, every episode is named after a letter of the alphabet, and they go through from A to Z. And I thought, bollocks to this, I'm going to buy the full series. So I bought the complete series on CD. I've listened to it through again for this podcast. I cannot recommend this highly enough. It's just hilarious. I say that genuinely because I am very hard to make laugh these days. Every episode made me laugh.
Well, that's nice.
Come on, counter my enthusiasm. I am the Arthur to your Douglas here.
I can't. It is an utterly brilliant sitcom. The characters are not only incredibly well written, but incredibly well performed. Now, I do have a slight issue with the way things change, because in the third, well, actually, when you're getting partway through the second series, the character of Martin starts off as profoundly unlikable and not in the least sympathetic. As you go through, you come across the whole he's working for no money and his actual money comes from being a man in a van, and he lives in the attic of a student flat, and the attempt to humanize him from that caricature I don't think works, because all of the four lead characters and most of the guest cast are caricatures.
You've identified a fault on my aircraft, thank you. Now, naturally, I expect you to make it good.
Martin, do you not think we'd be better off getting underway?
It's a light, Captain. A little twinkly light. So no one flies into the back of you in the dark. I reckon you can risk going without it at midday.
We might be delayed.
You're flying from Birmingham to Newcastle. Which way round the globe are you planning on going?
Look, I happen to be the commander of this vessel, and if you want me to sign off your tech log, we will do this, please, by the book.
All right then, Commander. By the book it shall be.
Thank you.
So the first thing we'll need is a cherry picker.
But you only need a stepladder.
A stepladder, Commander? Oh, you daredevil. No, the book specifically forbids the use of the dreaded stepladder, or, as it's better known round here, the Widowmaker. What we will be requiring is a cherry picker and, of course, a safety harness, hard hat and high-vis vest. See you in an hour or so.
Right. Still, I think the principle was worth...
I do get what you're saying. Martin's initial superiority at being the younger captain. As time wears on, it is stripped away, but Roger Allam is perfectly cast as Douglas. My God, that man is just... I can't think of anybody else that could have played that role in the same way, with the same nuances, with the same suave, egotistical nuances that Roger Allam brings to that part. It's absolutely perfect. Benedict Cumberbatch. I mean, these are big hitters in this thing. Stephanie Cole, these are big name players. And John Finnemore, who could have wrote himself as the lead. He doesn't. He writes himself as the fourth character, who is a bit of a joke. Good God, everything about this just works. It falls into place. The casting is fucking perfect.
Here we are, chaps. Chap, coffee for you, Douglas, and coffee for you to maybe have a bit later on, Douglas.
Did you by any chance forget Martin wasn't flying today, Arthur?
No, I didn't actually. It's just I only know the amounts to make coffee for 2 people.
You could just have made half what you usually make.
Well, I couldn't, because I'd only know what to make half of once I've made it, and once I've made it, I've made it.
Oh, well, fair enough then. I didn't realise you'd addressed the problem scientifically. Hello, Starbucks, Irish Sea.
Douglas, it's Martin.
Hello there, enjoying your day off?
No. Douglas, how long till you land?
About half an hour, why?
Great. Is Arthur there?
Well, not all there.
Hello, Skip. Well, this is weird, isn't it? Because normally when I'm here listening to someone on Satcom, you're here too, listening to them, only now you're there where they are, and I'm here where you usually are, and where I usually am, and am now, talking to you.
You find Arthur in philosophical mood, Captain?
Yes, I agree with you. All 4 leads, utterly brilliant. All 4 characters, really well developed right from the word go, and continue to be well developed. The slight problem I have is that the character of Martin changes partway through to become more sympathetic, and he's not written as a sympathetic character, and he's not a sympathetic character.
I can't say that I saw that overt change in Martin.
The whole thing towards the end where he gets himself a girlfriend and life is happy and smiley for him, that really didn't gel with the way the character was to start with.
Oh, now to me it did. It was this man who desperately wants to be respected and admired and loved.
Yes,
and
but the funny thing about it was that there was nothing to respect and admire in him. His humour comes from the fact that he is so inept and so unlikable. Now, don't get me wrong, he's not the only unlikable character in this. Carolyn is pretty horrible, and particularly the bit where she's off on a date with Herc.
Played by Anthony Head, another perfectly cast character.
Yeah, and he's a vegetarian and is not pushing it forward at all. She happens to notice that he's vegetarian, and then she goes out of her way to be upsetting about it. And can I order whitebait? Oh, yum, yum, 30 little lives on a plate. I thought that was fairly horribly done. And up until that point, she'd been horrible to people who deserved her being horrible to them. But Herc didn't.
Herc was an arsehole, though, but he was an arsehole to everybody else except her.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, I took that as her recognising that he was someone that she could lock horns with on that level, and it would just be taken as a locking horn. Those scenes Admittedly, they were the scenes where Carolyn came across as the bigger arsehole than Herc, but he was the bigger prick when he was talking to Martin and Douglas. So, I get you. I can't really pick this apart on too technical a level, purely because it was so joyous. I mean, usually when you get a sitcom, particularly on radio, they can be a bit weak. This isn't. This is as big a rival to the very best of them that I've seen on television. Something like, I don't know, One Foot in the Grave, where there's something every episode. You think, this situation's cringeworthy. How has he written this so cringeworthy? Fawlty Towers, where you can only really watch one because it's so intricately woven. Cabin Pressure, I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that it's set on an airline and the expense of filming this would be through the roof, this would be prime meat for a television adaptation.
And the expense of getting Benedict Cumberbatch, realistically, by the time this may have gone to TV sitcom, he would have been way too expensive.
I can't remember when this was finished. It's certainly within the past 10 years. But even at the time, Benedict Cumberbatch would have been a big name.
Yeah, and he'd be able to come back and do the occasional afternoon's audio because you don't need to block things out and you don't need to script perfect because you can have the script in front of you. That's realistically not something that could have happened with somebody like Benedict Cumberbatch because he was such a big name.
Well, notably, he is the only one of the cast that is ever recast. I think it's only one of the
It's only one episode when he's ill.
And it's done in such a way that Martin's role in that episode is slightly lighter now, whether that was by accident or design. The guy they've got in, whose name I can't remember, but I should, he actually does quite a good job.
Tom, oh God, I want to say Tom Biggin Hill. It isn't. It's Tom something or other Hill, double-barreled.
But it's not one of those recasts that's horribly noticeable. You just know something's a little bit off. But Benedict Cumberbatch does the closing continuity announcements. It's very clear that he's having a whale of a time making these things.
Yeah, which is probably why it carried on getting made. And without the four of them in their very distinct roles, this wouldn't work. The reason it works so brilliantly is because you've got such a good cast and such a good script.
I mean, at this point, I've got to drop in my favourite scene of the whole series. Bear in mind, every episode has got something to at least raise a good smile at, if not an outright laugh. But my very favourite is a scene from the Kikik Tarjuak episode where the strafing polar bears...
Polar bears! Look, on the ground!
Of all places. Excellent. Right, bears, let's see what you've got.
Douglas, Douglas, we don't have the altitude.
Oh, we've got plenty of altitude.
We don't, we're at treetop level already.
Ah, but you're forgetting no trees in the Arctic. That gives us at least another 30 foot.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, you think you can get away that way, do you, Paddington?
No! Douglas, you'll stall it!
No, I won't. Just sit back and enjoy the ride.
I can't enjoy it if you're going to kill us all!
Don't exaggerate. Aha! Let's be having you then, Winnie.
Douglas, I have control!
No, you don't. Ooh, Baloo at 10 o'clock.
Douglas, please, stop! You're going to kill us all, please! You'll kill us all!
Oh, fine. Honestly, what a fuss.
Gentlemen.
There you go. We gave them a bit of a show, didn't we?
Oh, yes.
Sorry I had to stop, but they must have got a pretty good eyeful of the bears, didn't they?
They mainly weren't looking at the bears.
Why ever not?
Because they were mainly frozen in terror. Because for some reason, as soon as you started chasing the bears, the cabin address came on.
That cracks me up every time. Are there any that leap to mind for you?
I really like Boston. The bit where Arthur, thinking that somebody's smoking in the toilet and has been given permission to knock the door in and spray him with the fire extinguisher, and he does it with such glee. I just creased laughing at that.
Okay, he's up. He's on the move. Okay, he's in.
Okay, Arthur, stand by.
Okay.
Stand by. Oh, no. Emergency. Emergency. The plane is on fire. Arthur, for the love of God, save us all.
Yes, Skipper!
Hey, what the... Oh, God. My chest.
Fire's out.
There's so many from the series, though. Very, very early on in the series, it's either episode A or B. The primary hydraulic system just fails. And Douglas is just there in the cabin, casually explaining to Carolyn.
Hello, Carolyn. This is the pointy end. Just to let you know, I'll be landing today without number 1 hydro.
What? Why?
Oh, I don't know, just to see if I can. All right, everyone, hang on. We're going in.
I have control. And shutdown checks complete.
Well done, Captain.
Good Lord, Douglas. You made a right old meal of that, didn't you?
Not really.
What? You did 2 go-arounds, then you finally slammed it onto the ground like you were trying to wipe out the dinosaurs.
Oh, I'm not denying a right old meal was made of it, but I was not the chef du jour. Captain Creef kindly took control.
What?
And for your information, a firm landing is generally the safest.
If that landing had been any safer, it would have killed us.
Arthur, who he's a Burke all the way through. When they go to Molokai for Christmas, and Martin's singing Christmas carols, but with the wrong words.
Arthur's awoken. Brace yourself. What for? Oh, is this the first time you've flown with Arthur on Christmas morning?
Get dressed, you merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay, for it is Christmas, 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 Christmas Day. Yes. It's Christmas, 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 Christmas Day. Arthur. It is Christmas Day, Christmas Day. It is Christmas Day.
That's the one with the multimillionaire who's aiming to invest. So they're trying to pretend they have a much bigger organisation that they have. And they're coming out with it. Our other stewardesses, Carol and Holly.
I can't recommend this highly enough. There's just not enough gush in the world for Cabin Pressure. It's hands down the best radio series I've ever heard. Of all the stuff I've ever had on audio that I've gone on and on and on about, even stuff that you don't like. So Lord of the Rings, which I think up until a few years ago I thought was the pinnacle of Radio 4. This eclipses everything.
Before we move on to earworms, we cannot possibly leave a discussion of Cabin Pressure without mentioning Burling Day.
Burling Day forms the basis of 3 episodes throughout the series, and this is an obscenely rich passenger who every year charters the flight to go and watch the rugby. And he tips outrageously, quite openly, for the staff to toady around him.
And the other thing about Burling Day is that he's a big fan of posh whiskey. Now, whiskey means nothing to me, so I've no idea what...
Likewise.
But he has a bottle of posh whiskey, which every year Douglas steals. You think it's going to be light and fluffy, and it is light and fluffy. It's very funny and it's very entertaining. But a lot of the plots are very clever as well. And the Burling Day ones, absolutely.
The convoluted ways that Douglas... There's a bottle of Talisker whiskey. May or may not exist. I suspect it's an actual thing, but...
Oh, it is.
Well, I think all whiskey is paint stripper, and it means nothing to me. Years ago, I was offered a glass of 75-year-old single malt, and I already said, this 200-pounder shot whiskey or whatever it was going to be wasted on me. Please do not pour me a glass. They did anyway. It was just 200-pounder glass paint stripper. But the way that it's written, that he steals this whiskey every year from right under their noses, the writing involved, it really is off the map. It's some of the best stuff I've ever heard. Because the imagination involved to convolute that plot. John Finnemore, I salute you, sir.
I stole all the Talisker while you were on the roof.
But you can't have done. They were all still sealed when I came down. I opened one at random.
No, they weren't all still sealed. They all still made a
noise. But you see, Arthur, there are two ways of making a whiskey miniature make a noise. One certainly is to get an unopened one straight from the factory, but another is to take an opened one and to dab the side of the cap with 2 spots of clear nail varnish. Yeah. So while Arthur was bravely searching for the TV aerial, I opened them all up and switched them for McHamish Tartan Terror, Mr. B being in no state to tell the difference. And then I hid the Talisker on the plane to reclaim at my leisure.
Oh, so at least
I hid it somewhere no one would think to look for it or recognise it for what it was. Somewhere no one would touch it. I hid it in the McHamish Tartan bottle. Yes.
So we're getting to the earworm stage.
This is the song that never ends. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends.
What are we thinking, Dr. X? And I'm going to
10.
let you go first. Oh, yes.
Without a doubt,
yeah.
10. Okay, I've been slightly picky with the development of the character of Martin, but it's a very picky point. Each episode is a work of genius. Absolutely hilarious. I mean, God, when they go to retrain and do their yearly validation, God, that is so funny. You could pick genius bits out of every single episode. The bit where they lock the cat in the hold in Abu Dhabi.
You think it will still be alive after 7 hours in an unheated storage hold at 30,000 feet?
Again, I fear you overestimate my knowledge of cat pathology.
I am very difficult to please these days, but I listen to a lot of Radio 4, a lot of audio for that matter, but every single episode is just a work of art. Of anything that we've ever done, and frankly, are ever likely to do, this is top of the pile. I can't recommend Cabin Pressure highly enough.
Yeah, it is an absolute work of genius.
And they'll continue singing it forever just because.
With that in mind, do you have anything else that's a work of genius for us to recommend this week?
I have a work of comedy genius as a podcast that I think you may enjoy.
Engage me.
Tell me, have you heard of the Peggy Mount Calamity Hour?
Exit stage left.
Is that one we've guested on at some point that might have been mildly sweary and a little bit expletive-laden, but an absolute joy from beginning to end?
That would be the one. They're an archive television podcast who are more than a little sweary and take themselves about as seriously as we do. It is an absolute joy to listen to, particularly when they're reviewing something that is not good.
Deeply shit. This is, and it's no disrespect to all the other podcasts out there, hands down my favourite other podcast. They release in series, which we don't. We're just constantly round the clock. We just can't do anything else other than podcast. But Peggy Mount, they release a series a year, and it's always a joy. They do specials. You never know when they're coming, but they're always, every single time, and they're getting better as they go on. Just absolutely hilarious because there are, to coin a phrase, no fucks given. And as time wears on, they're watching stuff. It's real mainstream stuff. It's all stuff that would have been either seasonal specials or series that everybody would have watched at the time. They rip them to bits. And frankly, deservedly so. All the stuff that they cover is all stuff that is mired in that rose-tinted nostalgic glow that actually, when you go back and look at it, there were a lot of flaws.
Yeah, their episodes on Chorlton and the Wheelies and Bod are, oh my God, they're funny.
They do one on Blankety Blank and Run Around, and those are still two of my favourites. I mean, these were big programmes at the time, and you listen to them and they're just merciless. They're like us, but worse.
And with better production values, because they prepare beforehand and
Yeah, we don't. We just tip up with gin and cast a glance at Wikipedia and then chat. No, they actually do research beforehand. This is a bit of a gushy episode because everything that I've talked about this time has been 10 out of 10, wonderful, but Peggy Mount, if you're going to listen to anything, that's the one. And on that note, I shall sign us off. Cabin Pressure is one of those rare exceptions where Simon and I are in complete accord. It doesn't happen very often, but really hunt this one down.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely hilarious. Work of genius.
And next time, we're going to come back with something that's a little bit more contemporary, which is rare for us, but BBC Radio have adapted Starship Titanic, starring Michael Palin. This is a Douglas Adams thing. It's based on a computer game from the 1990s, but we haven't actually heard it yet. So we're going to listen to that and come back with something absolutely brand new and fresh for the next episode. Until then, thank you for listening to us. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've inspired you to go and look out Cabin Pressure. Until next time, thank you very much, boys and girls. Ta-ta.
Goodbye now.
The archive of audio antiquities featured Simon Exton and Ken Moss, and the announcer was Jenny at Blue Box 99. All featured soundtracks are the property of their respective producers, and no infringement of copyright is intended. Title music was by Edward White, and the programme was produced by Maverick Productions. For more information, please visit maverickproductionsuk.blogspot.com or find us on social media.